Breaking news, Fabinho has completed his medical for Al-Ittihad. After 6 years of playing for Liverpool, he is set to join the Saudi club for a fee of around 40 to 45 million pounds. It is a deal that is going to come with a lot of consequences for Liverpool. 45 million for Fabinho at 29 years old after a couple seasons of not being at his very best is a good deal, I would say. It's good money. It's good business overall. Fabinho was bought for a fee of around 35 to 45 million anyway, so you're effectively recouping a majority of the transfer fee on the player, and he has won basically everything with Liverpool. And I'm going to look at all the replacements that are potentially lined up, some of the news surrounding Liverpool, some other players being linked with moves away, once again, transfer bids coming in and such. So if you enjoy the content, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe, because I'm going to have a lot more of it coming more frequently as the summer progresses and as the season kicks on. So let's get right into it. This is from Mania, which is a Twitter account, which I assume is affiliated to Al-Ittihad, but this was the Twitter account that basically first confirmed the interest of Fabinho from Al-Ittihad. So now, with him doing his medical today, Liverpool has to move forward. Liverpool has to figure out a way to replace Fabinho. And this is an article that kind of explains it rather well. It's not the most thorough article. There's not a lot of news information here, but it is David Lynch who posted this today, July 18th. And he's basically looking at how Liverpool signing Fabinho in kind of a smokescreen fashion, let's say, just out of the blue, is something that might be indicative of how Liverpool will pursue the next defensive midfielder /6 that they replace Fabinho with. So some names are mentioned here. There isn't necessarily too much on these names, just that Toon Koopmeiners from Atalanta is being suggested as an alternative target, but there hasn't been any contact on that front. Florentino Luis as well is being mentioned in the article as well as someone who has a lot of admirers at Liverpool, but the chances of a move being made are kind of being, put down by the club and by officials at the club. So that's the whole article, but there are a bunch of names floating around. This is from Reddit. Some names that have been kind of floating around recently. You have Romeo Lavia, you have Edson Alvarez, you have Ibrahim Sangare, Amrabat, Florentino Luis, Cheikh Doucouré, Caicedo, and then Weifer. This is a player comparison of Fabinho, Bajcetic, Lavia, Kimmich, Koopmeiners, and Sangare. And then over here, I have Cheikh Doucouré, Florentino Luis, Sofiane Amrabat, Caicedo, Szoboszlai, and McAllister. So there's roughly 10 players here. Two of our starting, well, I wouldn't say starting in the case of Bajcetic, but two of Liverpool's defensive mids from last season. Fabinho obviously getting replaced, so a bunch of alternatives to Fabinho here, along with Bajcetic. And then these are, I'd say, other alternatives to the alternatives. There's a lot of names floating around. Lavia has obviously been linked a ton, but this is kind of a deeper dive. So let's start with Fabinho. And right off the bat, when you look at the minutes played, Fabinho is right at the middle of the pack. So being that he is 29, he is older than most of these players. He's older than just about everybody, actually. No, he is. He's the oldest player on both of these lists. Kimmich did play a ton of minutes last season, but he started for Bayern, so that's expected. Moving towards the kind of defensive actions here, this is something that's really interesting to look at. The 57.5% tackle percentage, the successful percentage of dribblers that have been tackled by a player across the course of this season. And you have Sangare in first place with 57.5%, Kimmich at 52.8%, Koopmeiners with 50.9%, and then Lavia and Fabinho are roughly at the same point. But you have to realize with Fabinho, if we pull this here, actually I have one already. Here's Fabinho. With Fabinho, there is quite a interesting fall off. Not even a fall off per se in the defensive production and output of Fabinho. Sure, from 2020 to 2021, you could really say that there is a major drop off in Fabinho's kind of defensive success in tackling dribblers. But more than that is his possession fall off. It's more so for this past season from 21-22 to 22-23. There's been this major drop off in successful take on percentage for Fabinho from 60s just about his whole career from the last season at Monaco to 21-22 Liverpool, and then 22-23 Liverpool. Fabinho goes from 73.3, a secondary high in his career, to 46.7. So Fabinho effectively has become a player who hasn't been able to take on or carry the ball as eloquently as he has previously. And that has kind of impacted his ultimate style of play because Fabinho is the linchpin for Liverpool. So moving back to these kind of comparisons, you look at the kind of passing completion, you can see that Fabinho is right up there with Kimmich. So Kimmich feels very much like the like for like here. Lavia seems like a player who could embody that kind of linchpin CDM, who can pass the ball rather well for the future. But then if you go over here to the other section and you look at the people who have highest tackle percentage for these midfielders, you could see that even amongst our more attacking midfielders, Szoboszlai and McAllister, this is career. Wait, I have it set up for them for their career, but even still, their career averages are higher than Fabinho last season. So it's a major step up. Amrabat also well above Fabinho. Obviously, this isn't necessarily being done to slate Fabinho. I wish him the best with his move, but any number of these players could be interesting, could fit the system. I think someone like Amrabat is someone to consider. When you look at Amrabat's kind of passing capability as a CDM, it's really honestly pretty cool. But if you go and you look at even still his tackle percentage for his career is something that is significantly higher than Fabinho's. Regardless of all these names that we have here, Lavia, Sangare, Coop Miners, Kimmich, Florentino Luis, Sofian Amrabat, Caicedo, Cheikh Doucouré, all of these names are very enticing, can offer a certain different dimension for Liverpool style play moving forward. But something to consider is this. This is a translation from this post from a PSV forum. Yes, PSV Eindhoven. And this is in reference to Ibrahim Sangare. This was posted within the last couple of hours, and it's apparently from an official kind of insider in the know PSV journalist. Basically, the translation says, the rumors about Sangare are correct. Liverpool are waiting for Fabinho to leave, and they think they can get Sangare with that money. There is contact between Liverpool and Kiki Musampa, his agent, may also explain why Sangare has held off other Premier League clubs who I believe cannot be ruled out. I expect everything to accelerate in the next 10 days. Sangare has a £32.5 million release clause. And Tom V23, thank you for that translation, my friend. Major kind of bombshell, let's say. So let's go back to Ibrahim Sangare, because he kind of seems like somebody now who is towards the front of the pack for what Liverpool might want. And if you look at his stats, they are rather impressive. But I will kind of let you know that this is, pump your brakes a bit. This isn't kind of being compared to the top 5 leagues, because FBref compares leagues like the Eredivisie to leagues like the MLS or Liga MX and other leagues that aren't the big 5 leagues. So it's basically the 8 teams from 6th to 13th of the top 13 teams in the world. Even still, these are remarkable stats. And Ibrahim Sangare is a player who I personally haven't watched very much of. But if I go to transfer marked and go to Sangare, Ibrahim Sangare, here he is. If we go to his injury record, which I can find somewhere, there we are, the injury record. As you can see, let me zoom this in for you. Well, I zoomed that in way too much. But this is his injury record. 2018-2019, he tore a tendon, was out for 10 games. That was his biggest injury from October 20th to January 1st. 73 days. That's a pretty big injury, but that was several years ago now. And since then, he had this unknown injury for about 2 weeks that saw him miss 4 games in 21-22. And then he missed 3 games on 3 separate occasions for 22-23. They were all just kind of single days for 3 to 5 days at a time. So not necessarily the biggest injury profile, not like he has a major injury in him or anything like that. He is 25 years old, however, which is a fairly good age to get somebody at, especially for this 30 to 45 mil kind of price point that Liverpool love to shop at. They love getting players around 35 to 45 mil. I mean, just look at the likes of, you have Alexis McAllister this past season, Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, the list goes on and on. Also worth considering, Ibrahim Sangare as a CDM linchpin kind of type, our Destroyer 6. He could be a player who can really gel in with the squad really nicely because he'll have someone who he's very good friends with. He's a teammate of Cody Gakpo. He was playing with Cody Gakpo before Gakpo came to Liverpool at PSV. At this point, 87 games in the Eredivisie, basically played around probably 60 or so with Gakpo. That's 2 seasons or so from him. And honestly, I would say that I wouldn't be too upset if Liverpool went out and got him. I know obviously these stats are rather inflated because of the fact that there is kind of this comparison to the next 8 competitions as opposed to the big 5 leagues. But even if that is the case, I think these are really promising stats. And if we go back to the player comparison to look at Ibrahim Sangare and look at his passes completed, you can see he's right at the middle of the pack. So he's not necessarily the worst passer. He's not the most accurate. That could use some, sprucing up. But in terms of defensive actions, he comes at the top for tackle percentage. He comes towards the top or at the top actually for defensive third tackles, which are huge. Middle third tackles. He's 10 behind Fabinho. Attacking third tackles. He's right at the middle of the pack. So basically he's a player who can really provide Liverpool with some, sort of added defensive presence. He doesn't intercept the ball a lot, but you can imagine that with Alexis McAllister, with Curtis Jones, with Soboslai, these guys are going to be the intercepting type of midfielders more so, and you'll be expecting him to go and do stuff like clear the ball or, provide an error every now and then, which he has one of, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. People have errors, but Sangare, a player to finsider. Interest will ramp up. Keep your eyes peeled on Ibrahim Sangare. But finally, Al-Hilal. They have interest in Luis Diaz, and this is being reported by Paul Joyce. very reliable journalist when it comes to Liverpool news. 50 mil is the price tag that Al Hilal thinks they can work up to prize away Luis Diaz from Anfield and from Liverpool. And all I can say is you're absolutely out of your mind if you think Liverpool are going to sell Luis Diaz, let alone for 50 million pounds. Luis Diaz was bought a couple seasons ago and has been excellent at Liverpool. He had the injury, yes, by he who shall not be named, who is going to the Saudi League, who should have been playing at the time, but still injured Luis Diaz. But that's in the past. But without that injury, Luis Diaz has been electric. He hit the ground running almost immediately at Liverpool and was bought for 45 to 50 mil. He's in his very prime, or rather entering it if he isn't at his prime. And honestly, like, I know every player has a price. I understand that, unfortunately, in certain situations, even the likes of potentially one day Mo Salah or Virgil van Dijk will get sold by Liverpool for hefty sums. But Luis Diaz's price is much closer to over 100 mil than it is at 50 mil. Luis Diaz isn't going to leave Liverpool this summer, I hope, but a lot of stuff to consider, and let this be a warning for all of us, because the transfer market is just wild. The transfer window is just insane, and anything can truly happen. Even like these ridiculous links to Al Hilal for Luis Diaz. I hope it doesn't happen. Hope I'm right, and I hope this man is playing in a Liverpool shirt next season. Well, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below. What did you think of the potential players that are linked to replace Fabinho that I listed here? Some more kind of details on that from my video a couple days ago. What would you think of Ibrahim Sangare coming to Liverpool? Are you still interested in Liverpool getting Lavia and potentially someone with more experience like a Sangare or an Amrabat or a Coop Miners? Or do you think Liverpool should target someone like Joshua Kimmich or a Aurelien Tchouameni, more of a kind of higher prestige of midfielder who has more experience but also has played at the very highest level? So thank you so much for watching. I'm Sideline Sedo. Consider giving the video a like and subscribe for more footy content and Liverpool transfer news. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.